name is Hassan Martini. I'm the executive director of No Dem Left Behind, and I am zooming in from the Chicagoland area, the suburbs, where I live.
Where it must be nice and warm, I would imagine.
To be honest with you, it's not that bad right now. Yesterday was 65, so
Wow. Okay. And it's Los Angeles is like in the 40s. So I don't know. Everything is upside down.
uh, so I'm assuming that's where you're zooming in from.
I am zooming in from the heart of warm, sunny California.
Richard Ojeda, our national spokesperson, speaks very, very highly of you and the work that you guys are doing. So thank you for that and the opportunity, and we really appreciate it.
Well, I want to know more about No Dems Left Behind. I didn't know just what I looked at, how long it's been around, and there's something I want to propose to you as part of this conversation
Okay.
that I kind of came up with last night as like a stroke of genius. But uh, let me get a little background from you and the organization first.
Yeah, absolutely. So No Dem Left Behind was founded not as a pack, but more as an organization back in the summer of 2019, leading up to the 2020 campaign. The reason why it came about, what I found was I came across a candidate that was running out in rural Indiana with, and this candidate had all of the right, was saying all the right things, was doing all the right, was meeting all the right people, but she was out on her own. She was doing it all by herself. Janine Lee Lake's running against Mike Pence's brother, Greg Pence. And, I'm from Chicago where all of the campaigns, even, state, Senate, state house, whatever it is, local sheriff races, is millions of dollars thrown into these. Judges' races have millions of dollars. Like, it's ridiculous. Meanwhile, this congressional race has nothing, no resources, but forget financial resources. No access to people, no access to data, no access to the very like basic things that you need to run a campaign. So, and I had just come off a Chicago mayoral race where there was like 20 some odd candidates, and it was, tens of millions of dollars thrown around. I'd become really jaded with the political process. But I wanted to see how I could help this candidate that, brought me back to why I do this in the first place, the motivation, you know, and but at the same time, how could I help her? A, there's no money there. B, like there's no infrastructure, there's no nothing. And so I'm like, okay, just give me a couple days. Let me try to figure something out, and I'll get back to you. And a couple of days actually turned into a couple of weeks. I really struggled with it. And then I started to think, like, she can't be alone. There has to be others out there like her in the similar. So I put together kind of like a small team, and we started doing research. And I believe we came up with about um, 78 or 79 candidates that were running for the U.S. House all across the country in districts that went R10, 10 or more. And what we did was we just reached out to all of them and we met with as many people as we could. So then we came back like, okay, we think, we think we might be able to help you guys if we join forces. Because instead of saying, hi, my name is X, I'm running in out of South Dakota in a deep red district. Can you help me? I was like, hi, my name's Hassan. I'm the executive director of No Dem Left Behind. We're a coalition of Democrats that are running in deep red, mostly rural districts. We're speaking to folks that have been disenfranchised by both parties. We're registering voters along the way. Can we count on your support?
Wow.
It's a different conversation. People perked up all of a sudden. Really? There's Democrats out in South Dakota? We didn't have a candidate in South Dakota. That's besides the point.
Right.
Um, so then, we're trying to build this. We're trying to get everybody, trying to get them access to resources, trying to get them access to information. and trying to do the best we possibly can. Um, you know, and then COVID hits, and then everything just it's like, all right, what do we do? We were planning to do events. We were planning to, everything that we had planned just got thrown out the window, and we went virtual, just like everybody else. Only with us, it was a benefit because virtual was much cheaper, so we were able to get celebrities. I remember the first time Alyssa Milano said, "Yeah, I'll do a virtual town hall with you guys." And then all of a sudden, we had 250,000 people watching No Dumb Left Behind, and these candidates that otherwise wouldn't have that on the national stage. Then Chelsea Handler came and said yes, and then we actually did the virtual town hall with Sarah Cooper the day that it was announced that she got her Netflix special, which complete coincidence because we had planned it out months in advance. But all of these things were happening, and during the peak of the campaign season, we were receiving anywhere between 5 to 10 applications a week from candidates all across the country that wanted to be a part of No Dem Left Behind. So we knew we were onto something. Um, and then but I, but we wanted more. We wanted a proof of concept. How can you prove that a Democrat in rural America can win? Well, along comes Richard Ojeda, who ran in an R54 district, and he had it within single digits, something unheard of in modern day politics. Why? Because he's Richard. He looks you at the camera and he just talks to you like a normal human being. He looks like he's from rural America because he is. He talks the talk. People can relate to him. He's a he's charismatic and he's likable and he's honest. And so there's only one Richard Ojeda. I'll be the first to tell you that. But there are others like him, and we want to find community leaders. We want to find people that are doing good work in their communities that they could talk to them and say, "Listen, I'm not what you're seeing on TV by the radical right wing lunatic. Like, does that sound like me? Does that sound like anything like you hearing on Breitbart or Fox or Newsmax? That's not me. That's not what we're about. You want to know why I'm running? Because that school needs to be repaired. And it's not. And it hasn't been for decades. So we have one of two choices. We could let our children rot, or we could try something different. What do you say? And that's the story of No Dumb Left Behind.
It's a fantastic story. I am so excited that, I'm excited that COVID happens to give you the opportunity. No, seriously, look, if everything is a teaching moment,
Yeah.
I know this for myself. I mean, my story is not halfway fabulous as that, but Won't Be Silent is a project that I started before COVID. It's a film about speaking up against oppression and against all odds, and you know um, and it's a very moving story. But when we got into lockdown, I had to stop production, and when you're doing an indie film, the whole thing is to build on the enthusiasm, and while you're filming is when you're getting financing and there's things you can show people what you're doing. So we had to shut down, and rather than look at it as like, this is the end of my life because it's my passion project, I thought, what better way to say I won't be silent than by voting? And I took the platform and I brought it to TikTok, and I worked with the Voting Rights Alliance in Washington, D.C., and I did a series of public service announcements. The crux of the film is about a piece of music that was written in a concentration camp as a song of resistance to the Nazis that was lost for 75 years and was somehow exhumed from the ashes of the Holocaust. And I felt, let me take this piece of music and turn it into a song of resistance today at the time when, leading into this election, I'm kind of been an activist my whole life, but this was for sure the most contentious election. This was the first time that I felt like that if there was a do or die for America, and that was only, and that was last year. Now it's even more ratcheted up.
Yeah.
But I was able to start this platform, and am building a following of people of like mind, and TikTok has a tremendous varied, people, it's not just young people dancing.
Yeah.
Actually, most of my followers are in a different age category where they're feeling as helpless as I was, and like look to me as a voice because I try to be optimistic every day and I try to call the Dems out when I have to. I trash the Republicans because they need to be trashed like much worse than they're getting.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is the moment where if we all don't galvanize, we did it in 2020 and we did it for the Georgia runoff. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I can't quantify the numbers of how much impact we had, but in terms of an enthusiasm gap, we really filled in. I felt a tremendous amount of space to prove that TikTok is a platform not only for, you know, lighthearted comic entertainment, but for meaningful conversation and connection. So I'm trying to use this moment to kind of corral, in the same way you wanted to corral the candidates,
Yeah.
I want to corral the eyeballs
Yeah.
and the emotional eyeballs and the possibly giving eyeballs, but I don't want to be reduced to just money, asking for
Yeah.
money, you know,
Yeah.
and I know that because the Dems are so horrible at messaging, and I've had meetings with the DNC and I'm saying like, kids, you do not know what you're doing. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you know, and if you use TikTok as a group, as a platform, and really cultivate it and mine it and organize it, think about it, that it can be an awesome arm. You can't have
Yeah.
enough arms trying, you know this, you know what I mean? So anyway, so I'm at a point where I want to use this platform, but to really start promoting it and use 22 leading into November to use whatever voice I have to matter. I want to feel that's what's great about TikTok. Is this when lockdown happened, celebrities almost didn't mean as much as the everyday people that found their way to a place to connection. You know,
Yeah.
it was almost like the innocence of what the internet initially was, like 25, 30 years ago, when I
Yeah.
first found the internet and thought, wow, it's like minds, it's smaller communities, it's, you know, it's an opportunity to connect with people that think and want to be and do, and of course then it got spun into corporate America and made everybody, you know, made it shit, which it for the most part a lot of it is. Anyway, so I want to be able to use whatever I can do and harness the power that I feel has yet to be unearthed through TikTok to help Democrats in 2022. And that is my mission. And the thing I want to talk to you about
Yes.
is, did you see in the news last night that Kyle Rittenhouse is going to be the keynote speaker at the Turning Point USA?
Unfortunately, yes, I saw it.
Why don't the Democrats have a kind of 3 day groovy? And I know you originally wanted to do events, but here's the thing, we need to do that.
Yeah. No,
We
we've been
need to be
talking about
relevant.
that. Yeah.
We're young, not me. I mean, I'm a seasoned event producer before all this happened, and and I mean, we could pull together not only in terms of not heavy on celebrity either. This is like, remember that democracy is we the people. It's
Yeah.
not we the celebrities who then become the people, who then bring in the people. Like we've got to. I am committed, and look, of course, celebrities help. I worked in the A-list Hollywood universe for a few years and ran out screaming, you know what I mean? But I just kind of feel like we've got to remember that it's us and it's we the people, and that there's so many awesome people that are speakers and politicians and people running and underdogs that would fuel awesome events. I mean, that ultimately, I think until after the primaries, when we finally know who all the final candidates are in these other smaller districts, like whether it's going to be Marcus Flowers or, you know, Jess Piper, I want to know whoever these finalists are, then we kind of do a series of events where hopefully freaking COVID won't be an issue. but I feel like we could still do events. Maybe we do something in Georgia because that's like a buzz state for the 2022 election, or Arizona, although by the spring it'll probably be so hot nobody's gonna want to go. You know what I mean? But I want to put together a coalition of people who want to help me think this through to do that. I'm going to ask the DNC. I'm going to ask Run for Something. I'm going to want to galvanize all the people that I have already been reaching out to be part of something that works.
Yeah.
Because what's happening doesn't work. To have these big, I mean, and I said it in a post yesterday. I'm sorry for going on and on, but
No, no, no. This is,
it
you're right
when
on
you
so
think
many
about
levels.
when you see what the Dems pulled together, it's all these celebrity fests, like enough bringing celebrities to Washington D.C. for their obligatory visits, photo op. Olivia Rodrigo going to see Joe is not as impactful as like a 2 or 3 day event with people and speaking opportunities. And TikToks alone would be so vital to be there. Even Instagram. I mean, I find Instagram to be a little more pretentious and less political, but maybe it's just that's not my algorithm. But I want to do this, and I want to be part of this, and I think that there's opportunity for musicians. I mean, there's just so many. It's like a '60s happening with a 2022 intention. You know what I mean? But the vibe of it should feel alive and friendly and not, because I'm sure Turning Point's like crazed lunatic fest. You know what I mean? Um,
Strapped, of
yeah.
course.
And
Mandatory.
we need to rile people up too. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I agree. And look, we said this all the time. Donald Trump's not the only person that could sell out an arena. We can do that times 1,000.
1,000. I did a post last night because the past couple of days have been very emotional for me in terms of just, if you look at my posts since January 6th, I'm not finding anything new in the news. There is no reveals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't care if a text message comes out. I imagine that text message existed on January 6th at 3 in the afternoon. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I feel like last night, I just really felt like I feel like violated. You know,
Yeah.
I really personally, I'm taking this very personal. So I did a post last night because I live in Los Angeles, and the Women's March, we had about 1 million people. And I posted that iconic picture of us. And I'm like, when push comes to shove, honey, we show up. Like, you can have your 50,000 attendee Trump rally, whatever.
Yeah.
You piss us off, we're there. Look how many people around the country were motivated when he lost.
Yeah.
You can't compare the Insulian. When we get pissed, we operate. And I feel like we need to get pissed before November 8th. You know what I mean? So that it sustains until it gets to the box, to the post office,
Yeah.
to the mailbox.
Yeah, no, it's no secret that we've struggled this year, and it's not just like across the board from the Democratic side. I mean, it's human nature. People really were worn out after the 2020 campaign. They were, and then Georgia comes, and you're right, and there was just this sense of exhaustion. And now that exhaustion has turned into anger, understandably so. A lot of promises were made, and there are certain people that are holding up a lot of progress. My response is this: look, democracy is something that is worth fighting for, and legislating is not something that's easy, and it's not supposed to be easy. You see the Democrats going and they are, whether you want to call it debating, you want to call it arguing, whatever you want to call it. The point is, they're at it each and every single day, and they're trying to get this legislation, this monumental piece of legislation that we haven't seen in decades. Do you think that's supposed to become easy? It's not. Otherwise, other people would have done it. It's hard, hard work that requires every ounce of energy that you can think of to put it across, to get it through. And what people don't realize is what we're up against. Who doesn't want to see this legislation passed? The people that are made billions, and now that B is turned into a T. It's now trillions of dollars with the status quo, with ensuring that the corporate tax rates are virtually zero, that billionaires don't have to pay their fair share of taxes, that capital gains taxes are not for us, while the middle class here's the brunt of everything. So this is what we're up against. And how do they maintain control? Well, it all ties back to voting and the voting rights bills, and the and so that when HR 1 and when HR 2 came about, it was met with like an unbelievable amount of resilience, and you have to ask yourself, why are they so afraid? They're afraid of our voices. They're afraid of exactly what you just said. When people come together, when they vote, that terrifies the hell out of them. And so we need to learn from that, and we need to make sure that we do everything we can possibly do to make sure that the John Lewis Voting Rights Act passes, and that people are not restricted to voting. Um, and look, that's what we're passionate about. But I agree with you. We need to do a better job of getting that message out there. And events, I do believe, is definitely a strong opportunity because
Because it
look, there
becomes a
is some truth.
platform. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
there
like,
is.
isn't it like Fashion Week? What is a fashion show? It's, a limited group of people coming together. But what is the ancillary, like, loudspeaker that comes in? Images, conversations, photo ops, things, stories, little like things that you can feed the media. We're not feeding the media anything but negative stories right now.
Yep.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And again, I think between these various organizations we're all, our hearts are all in the wrong place, but like a DNC to be kind of have the reputation. I said very simply, I said, I don't actually know what your mission is, and I kind of find myself very in tune with a lot of stuff. I am almost a junkie for this stuff. But
Hmm.
if I don't automatically know, are you just there to raise money for certain candidates? Are you supposed to have, is Jamie Harrison supposed to be out there finding candidates or supporting candidates or like mining candidates or photo ops with candidates if he goes to visit like the Marcus Flowers, which he hasn't, but what does the head of DNC supposed to do besides the occasional opportunity on like MSNBC, and Tom Perez was and I can't even think of what the DNC really does.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. And that's why we're in this situation, because at the center of the Democratic Party is a bunch of money sitting and bunch of people that will never meet deciding what to do with that money, as opposed to, you know what I mean? As opposed to like farming it out, like this, what you guys do would only make them be legit.
Yeah, what we like to like, I know that they have a very difficult job to do, and I don't want to and I know that that the request, because I see it from our perspective. I see how many requests we get, and there's only so much we can do. So I can only imagine what they have going on. But what I will say is this: is that the candidates that make up No Dem Left Behind are the best ambassadors to the Democratic Party that you could ever wish for. They are people that are fighting day in, day out. They are going out into their communities and they're spreading your message. So invest in them because it will be the best ROI you will ever get. And so that's what our pitch is. But one of the things that I think that we could do better as a party, and the Republicans do this all the time, is by candidate almost recruitment, is supporting candidates earlier on. Like I'll give you an example. In Georgia, they're running the Republicans. Who are they running? They're running a college football legend, an NFL legend, in Herschel Walker, who I'm not sure can read. This is not like the guy is one of the dumbest, most arrogant, people on the planet. But that's who they're rallying behind. That's who they're pushing, and against who? Like against, Richard has him on his Mount Rushmore of U.S. senators and Reverend Warnock. So that's kind of like what we're up against, and we need to do a better job of that. And look, we did it successfully in Arizona. We ran an astronaut. America loves astronauts. Hence, we have Mark Kelly sitting as a U.S. senator. We need to find more grassroots, more community leaders, and we need to give them the resources to run. And what's happened in the past is we found those people, but then we haven't given them the resources. And then at times, so they look around and they find themselves by themselves. So the people that we really want to run are reluctant to run. And in rural America specifically, it's not easy. Like I'll give you an example. We had candidates whose lives were threatened, whose pictures were taken and put into escort magazines, whose children were harassed, whose parents were, uh, just horrific things that we had to get the FBI involved multiple times during the campaign. We had to keep this under wraps. Why? Because if we said it publicly, then the attention would only be more and it would only make things worse. Richard Ojeda, our national spokesperson, was left for dead near a creek. This is what we're up against. This is what's out there in rural America that we just take, that we're not taking
That's did
serious.
that was that a story when that happened, by the way, or did you keep it under wraps?
Well, this happened years ago
No, no,
before
no.
we.
I know he told me about it. I just interviewed him
Yeah.
the other day.
Yeah, I mean, it was a local story. Did not become a national story even after he had won I mean, even winning a state senate seat in in West Virginia is a big deal.
Yeah,
Look right now who's there. It's West Virginia has a super majority, which means the Republicans can do whatever the hell it is they want. And as a result, West Virginia ranks 49th out of 50th in almost every category, whether it comes to education or infrastructure. You know, is that what you want? Do you consider that success?
right.
So this is what we're up against, and we do need to.
Are your
uh,
candidates that you're working with now, or is it all on your website, the current
Yeah,
ones?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So far, and it's still early on. So far, we have endorsed Marcus Flowers, who's running against Marjorie Trader Green.
I
We
found
haven't.
him right away, and I had him on my podcast, my first one. He's
He's
amazing.
amazing. Marcus is doing the work every single day. Like he's out there running a full blitz campaign. Almost 2 years out, he was doing it.
Right.
That's the kind of energy that we need. Um, and so Bruno Amato, who's running against Kevin McCarthy. We have Josh Rumlard, who's running against Madison. Yes.
Why did you decide Bruno as opposed to the other two candidates? Any particular reason?
Yeah. So when we look for candidates, we really look for authenticity, people that can relate to their communities, people that can reach out and talk to their constituents, and also people that have a plan, people that have put together a team, people that are doing the work. And this is not a knock against any of the other candidates, but Bruno has this quality about him that you just look at him and you can root for the guy. He's putting in the work and he's making an impact in his community. And what I like about Bruno is he says, listen, I'm going to get up against Kevin McCarthy. I understand what I'm up against, but that doesn't mean that I don't get this message out. That doesn't mean that I don't do everything that I can to raise hell in my community to say, hey, listen, our towns are crumbling and Kevin McCarthy's not doing anything about it. And he has a lot of power. That Build Back Better. Do you know how much power, if Kevin McCarthy wanted to, he could bring to his community? Instead, he did nothing. Zero.
No, no, no. I'm glad to hear that because I was doing the research on the three different candidates for a post of mine. Because
Yeah.
this is like maybe almost 2 months ago. I was like, and I called this a California Grassroots Democrats. I don't know if you know that organization. And I called them. I said, why don't I know who's running against? What is your job if you're not? disseminating information to people about who's running. This is California specific.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, we just think it's such a red state. And like, that's like, you can't throw up your hands
Yeah.
a year before this election when he's proving to be like one stop short of a murderer. You know what I mean? I mean, it's insane. So I'm glad that I'm glad that there's a choice there, because I want to, of course, there's an organization here in LA that I was part of after what's it called? What happened in Orlando? The murder in Orlando at the gay club. What was the name of that place?
Um,
What happened with
the Pulse nightclub
the
you're
Pulse
referring?
nightclub? They
Yeah.
started Gays Against Guns as an organization that got, there's chapters all over the country, and I was part of the LA one for a while, and we were able to like organize the various gun groups, and not only gun related messaging, but we got Katie, the one that ended up having to resign because of the sexual inappropriate whatever, but we got her elected. We would like march up there and knock on doors, and you
Yeah.
know, so
That's
he's
a
not
red
far.
district. She flipped a difficult district. And
Yeah.
Katie Hill, by the way, we're a fan of. She did do one of our virtual town halls and was able to talk to our kid. Like whenever you ask her to do anything, she'll be the first to say yes. And I do hope that she decides to run again.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. Anyway, so the thing is that anything's doable.
Yeah,
We had a black
absolutely.
president. Hello, everything is possible.
Steve King in Iowa, who's a radical right wing
Yeah.
nut job. So he lost his primary. But had he not lost his primary, JD would have beaten him. JD Schultz was going to beat him in the general election. And that's about as red of a district as it gets because the people of Iowa do not like the blatant racism and the craziness that was coming out of his mouth. So we can't say that, oh, well, it's a lost cause. Because do you think the people of Georgia are happy with Marjorie Trainwreck Green? They're embarrassed,
Yeah.
as they should be.
Yeah.
So this nonsense that it's red, so let's just ignore it. You're turning your back on Americans, is what you're doing by doing that.
No, no, no. I'm on the same train as you for sure. Not
Yeah,
train wreck. Just
no.
train. So your plan for the year is I have a few people that I've interviewed that I'm going to send you a link to.
Oh yes, please.
So you have anybody in Missouri yet, like 6th district or 1st district?
In Missouri, no. We did in the last campaign. We had one of my favorite people who was a fifth generation farmer who was a Harvard educated lawyer and whose husband was active duty military. So Lindsay Simmons was the first ever spouse of an active duty military personnel
Yeah.
to be a party nominee for U.S. Congress because previously it wasn't allowed. Um, so I mean, those are like there are gems out there. One of the things that we like to say is okay. So it's the House of Representatives, which means it should be a representation of America, and uh, you know, from a diversity perspective, yes, ethnic and social diversity is very important, but what we look for is professional diversity. We need engineers, we need electricians, we need laborers, we need teachers. Right now, we're facing a cybersecurity nightmare. So we need AI specialists in Congress, people that understand this stuff. But we don't have that right now. And so that's one of the things we look for from our candidates is like professional diversity.
Cool. Well, I can't support your effort enough. I know, of
Thank
course, I
you.
could give you money, but that's definitely, every I can give if I could give everybody money, I would. But I would love to do whatever it is I can to help your candidates, and we can come up with specific activations, maybe through social media,
Absolutely.
and just keep an open communication to tell me what you need, and see what we can do. But I definitely want to continue talking to you about this event thing in the spring.
Yeah.
Where that should be, and maybe we could do a couple of pop-up ones. I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be, we shouldn't go for broke right away.
Yeah.
We should kind of think about what makes sense district-wise,
Absolutely.
I told
I'm
Marcus's,
all for it.
yeah, I told Marcus's people that, leading into the what's it called when they run against each other? The words just
Primaries.
before the primary, maybe it would come down there and do some kind of activity to help him get, I feel very strongly about not only him as a person and his commitment to leaving his cushy job to do this, which, opens him up to all sorts of challenges. But I just think how delicious would it be for him to replace her? Part of me thinks she's not going to run again, but that's another conversation.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm excited and thank you for the opportunity. We'll definitely continue to go back and forth.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I want to kind of do, because I'm so not on Facebook, but I feel like that's a huge missed opportunity. So what I talked to the DNC about are doing maybe Facebook lives and whatever, and maybe we could like enroll in those kind of town hall kind of things.
Let's do it.
Awesome. All right. Well, have a great day. Is there anything else you want to, final words or anything? Anything you want to?
No, I mean, if every the only thing we would say is, look, we'd really obviously appreciate everybody's support to whoever's watching this. Check out NoDemLeftBehind.com. Check out all the candidates that we're supporting. And one of the important things I really appreciate, sending us the candidates that you mentioned, because that's how it starts. We want to meet them. We want to meet as many great people out there as possible.
Yeah, I have another guy that's running, I think, competitively with the guy in North Carolina, this guy Henry Miller today. I'll see how that goes, and then I'll send it to you. But I'll send you all three of these for you to take a look at.
Appreciate it. Thank you so
Right.
much for the time and the work that you're doing.
No. I'm doing? I feel like I'm just yattling in my house. Whatever.
We're all just doing that.
With a mission. All
There
right.
we go.
Well, have a great holiday, and
You
thanks
as
for your
well.
time.
Take care.
We won't be silent.